On the fourth day of Tradmas, the internet gave to us JustPearlyThings' interpretation of why women are single. Hello, and welcome to the 12 Days of Tradmas. If you're new around here, my name is Kit, and Tradmas is a series I do in December where I talk about the harmful beliefs and ideas promoted by certain influencers, content creators, and so on. Basically, my normal content, but more of it and with a festive flair. And today, we're discussing why women are single per Pearl. In October, General Grifter JustPearlyThings posted a video titled 10 Reasons Women Prefer Single Life Over Relationships, with the thumbnail of, I quite enjoy this actually. Pearl just looks completely befuddled as though she can't understand this, even though she's also a single woman. And the thumbnail reads, Modern Fairy Tale, Single equals strong. Now, this is Pearl, so of course everything is women's fault, everything is twisted to make women sound like horrible people, but something I find odd is that Pearl, as I mentioned, is single. She could have told us why she's single. She could have given us her perspective on this article as a single woman and whether she agreed or disagreed, but instead she chose to read an article from a website I've never heard of, Hack Spirit, and offer no personal commentary, which I guess makes sense since her subscribers are there to hear her shit on women, but well, let's see what she's got.
I think that it's important when we talk about modern women and modern problems and the direction that society is going, that I'm not necessarily ascribing morality to it. I'm not trying to communicate one way is right and one way is wrong. But life has choices and trade-offs, and it's important that we see what the necessary end of the way our society is going.
Pearl is very clear about what she thinks is right and wrong. Spoiler, women are immoral, but I guess she needs to add this so if anyone takes her too seriously, she can use the I'm just entertainment defense.
We all know that men tend to pick for fertility, beauty, and youth. Those three things are what men pick for. But the average age of first marriage is around 30 years old, and it keeps going up and up and up based on the generation. So what does this mean? That means men, when they're in their sexual peak, is around 35 to 40 years old, and they tend to cash out of the sexual marketplace earlier than we do, because when we're at our peak, we don't have a tendency to marry. Now, we want to ask, why is that?
Or maybe men marry when they feel it's time and they've met the right person and they're not concerned about making sure they're single to enjoy those peak years. Or they want to enjoy those peak years with the person they're marrying. Weird. But that's why we're reading this article, apparently, to see why women marry later than men, even though the US Census is telling me that the average age for first marriage is 30.5 years for men, 28.6 years for women. Not that much difference, though Pearl would have us believe that men over 30 just want women under 23. Coincidentally, under 23 is a woman's peak. Is it any wonder that women don't want to marry in their early 20s? Is it possible that it's wise not to marry so young because marrying before age 25 increases the likelihood of divorce? Nah, we're all just wanton harlots who wish to avoid responsibility. Anyway, on to the 10 unexpected reasons women are choosing to stay single. I'll also add my commentary on these reasons as someone who was single for 10 years.
Number 1, they're no longer buying into the fairy tale. Sorry, Prince Charming, but you were a little bit late, so I went and saved myself. The happily ever after narrative is starting to feel pretty outdated. Stories we grew up on about women being rescued by men no longer ring true as the 21st century ears. What's more, a lot are sounding pretty sketchy. Sleeping Beauty was awoken by a kiss when she was unconscious. I'm sorry, but I think Prince needs a lesson in consent. Luckily, these days, a lot of women see the fantasy for what it is, just an illusion. That's not to put a downer on relationships, but real life is never so easy, and neither are real relationships. They're a lot of work, and understandably, not all women want to make it. So what is the first reason? We don't want to do work. I don't know what to tell you guys.
To be honest, I never bought into the fairy tale thing, though I did love my Disney princesses. Ariel and Belle were my favorites. Anyway, if you don't feel up to the task of maintaining a relationship, that's a valid reason not to be in one.
Number 2, relationships are hard work. Far from magically fixing everything in your life, relationships take time and energy. There's also evidence to suggest that women may have to contribute more of that energy into a relationship. For starters, the burden of emotional support can fall disproportionately on women. According to a Harvard Business Review, we can blame stubborn gender stereotypes for this. Women are often expected to be communal, which is typically reflected in caring and nurturing for others. There is more pressure on them to be kin keepers who manage relationships within the family and community. My first question, guys, is what family and what community? Are we blind? Are we like, what? It's not really a thing. All right, men are traditionally expected to be more agentic from a young age, rational, strategic, and assertive, even if this results in being less cooperative and considerate. And it's not just emotional work. Studies have shown that women spend double the amount of time compared to men caretaking, tackling chores, and doing housework. Researchers looked at 19 studies that used data from 70,000 individuals all over the world. They concluded that women spend far more hours on unpaid labor in a relationship. That has a negative impact on their mental health. No wonder then the single women may be healthier. Okay, guys, so we got number 1, we are not buying into the fairy tale. Number 2, hard work.
I really appreciate how Pearl reads the results of studies and just ignores them. Are people really that hard up for women bad content? Also, what was that what family and what community? Single woman doesn't mean no family. Where does Pearl think women come from? The ocean? And I find it odd that she mocks the idea of women having a community. Does she agree then that the loneliness epidemic isn't just male and includes everyone? Or does she just really like the idea of a woman moping alone in a dark room, wishing for a man to appear and save her from herself?
3, it's better for your health. Yep, that's right. Being single could be a lifestyle choice that offers perks. As well as having strong social networks, there's evidence that single folks may be physically fitter too. You know what? I would believe that. And the reason I'd believe it, I mean, the moms don't have time to spend 4 hours taking selfies in the gym. I mean, they don't have time for that. They might just have to eat less. Do you know what I mean? It turns out the idea of letting yourself go when you are coupled up might not be so far off the mark. Researchers looked at the health habits of 13,000 men and women between the ages of 18 and 64. What they discovered is that single people who had never married worked out far more often each week. Yep. Meanwhile, another study found that people weighed on average 5 pounds less than their married counterparts have lower BMIs. Why? Well, it probably has something to do that when you're single, you have more time for yourself.
This is so weird. The moms don't have time to spend 4 hours taking selfies in the gym? Pearl? If someone is just taking selfies at the gym and not actually working out, they're not going to look like they work out.
Number 4 reason why modern women are single. They're enjoying their freedom. Casual dating can be great fun. It's a chance to connect without getting tied down or making a commitment. More women are taking this opportunity to simply see what's out there. Apps provide us easy access to a whole host of potential suitors at the swipe of a screen. Of course, plenty of women choose not to date at all, and they find they have perfectly full lives without romantic partners on the scenes. In fact, studies have shown that women lead busier lives than single men do. They do more activities and have more friends. Yes. And the reason being for this is because you have to understand, a lot of times conservatives try to sell that women are somehow tricked into not having children, that women are just coerced, feminism brainwashed. Guys, if the roles were reversed and men could download a dating app and get 5,000 matches, 5,000, Do you think it would be a little bit difficult to get them to settle down if men could? Remember, average women can get flown out by top 10% men. Do you think if men could get access easily to all of the most attractive women that they know, do you think it would be a little bit difficult to get them to settle down? That's what's going on. Or if men, they tend to be, I don't want to say that because we're on YouTube. I'll say that on the network. But if men got jobs that were pretty simple, didn't have to do a ton of work and had a good work-life balance, work from home, do you think it'd be kind of hard to get them to settle down? Do you think it'd be difficult? Okay. In short, they have a lot going on and aren't looking to fill any kind of void. Single women get a lot more time to focus on their own interests, education, career, and life goals than women in relationships. They value their independence and want to make themselves the main focus and priority in their lives. So many women's needs no longer are fulfilled exclusively by a relationship, including the next on our list.
There is so much going on here. I like how Pearl says we and then changes to they. I guess she doesn't want to be considered a modern woman. I do agree that women aren't tricked or brainwashed into being single, but I'm starting to wonder if Pearl has either never been on a dating app or if she's never gotten a lot of attention on there. I didn't give up on the apps until 2020, and I did get some attention on there, and it wasn't this inspiring, uplifting, ego-boosting thing that she seems to think it is. Honestly, it was just boring. And as for being flown out, average women aren't being flown anywhere by top 10% men. And again, we have got to stop thinking that money equals value. And does she really think she's complimenting men by saying that if they could get all the attractive women they wanted, they would stay single? She just called them shallow. I'm not really sure what she was trying to say about men who have a good work-life balance, who work from home, that they're less likely to marry because their life is pretty easy. Does Pearl think men marry for convenience? Oh my goodness. Does Pearl think women can actually be a net positive in a man's life for any reason? This is shocking, but also hard to figure out what she was trying to say, so I won't get too excited.
Sex and relationships no longer go hand in hand. Sure, for some people, sex out of a relationship is taboo, but for many more, it's not. Sexual freedom has increased in large parts of the world, and sex can be enjoyed outside of a relationship with far less stigma. Hookup culture lets ladies get certain itches scratched without committing. After all, having sex isn't just about making babies. Many women, myself included, have decided that kids just aren't part of the life plan. Who says women who don't want to sow their wild oats too? That's exactly what some women are choosing to do. Don't they get lonely? There's a world of difference between being alone and being lonely. And mind you guys, I never say that this has no consequences. I don't say that. But what I am saying is nobody's brainwashed, nobody's tricked. All this is people are doing the easy thing and the fun thing. It's the same thing when you get really drunk and you're hungover, that's the consequence. What we have now is we are being given so much power with the internet, power to make money, power to get access to high-level celebrities, power to be at the coolest social events if you're attractive enough. All of this is fun and exciting. And most women don't want to be hunkered down. That's how they see it, right? Horse's mouth, by an average guy. They don't want to give up this exciting lifestyle for an average man. That's why you don't see women settling down until that lifestyle starts to go away. They age out of being a bottle girl. We age out of the dating apps, right? Where you don't get as much attention as you used to. That's when you see, but the issue is now there's so much technology that is prolonging this. So there's technology to, make your teeth whiter. There's technology to make people look younger, boob job, all of this stuff, right?
Pearl is really banking on women getting older and being miserable with their life choices. But life isn't over at 30, which Pearl should see as a good thing since she's closer to 30 than 20. You might not get the same attention on a dating app or at the grocery store or wherever, but not all attention is a good thing. And honestly, your priorities change as you get older. That's fine and normal.
They prefer solitude. I'm currently in a relationship, But hands down, one of the most difficult adjustments was losing a lot of peace and quiet I'd grown accustomed to. You see, I am one of the many women out there who genuinely enjoys and values alone time. It doesn't make me sad. I'm not bored. I feel deep contentment spending time by myself. So rather than longing for a man in my home, I took great pleasure in having a space that was my own. We're all built differently. Some of us like solitude and aren't in a hurry to give it up.
I think this is where Pearl gave up and just hurried through the rest, but this one resonates with me. I love my alone time.
7, they get their self-esteem from within. Far too many of us are still defining ourselves and our self-worth based on relationships, but it's much easier to be single when you don't look for someone else for your happiness. Far from making you weird, in many ways, choosing to be single is a reflection of strength. Okay, next.
She didn't even finish reading the rest of that section. Did Pearl read the article through before sitting down to film? It seems like she saw the first 2 reasons and thought it would make great content before realizing the rest, well, it's hard to spin self-esteem bad.
They won't settle for less than they deserve, right? So this, number 8, is going to be delusion. Delusion for the win. Okay. Some people feel so lost being single that any relationship will do. So they bounce from disaster to disaster, wondering why it never works for them. So what is this? Again, dating apps have given us as women access to men that never in our lives we would have access to. You know, a woman from a small town used to go marry her high school sweetheart. Now the most beautiful woman in a small town can be flown out by Andrew Tate, Channing Tatum, or really any high-level celebrity that wants a different girl every week. This access has made us think we're more attractive and special and awesome than we are. Of course, there's a difference between high standards and impossible standards, but having a healthy and fulfilling relationship should be everyone's baseline. Women who feel confident and content as single girls aren't frantically looking for anyone to fill in the vacancy. If they do want a partner, they are prepared to wait to find a person and situation that does well for them. That may take time, but luckily there's no rush.
Not settling for less than you deserve is delusion, but thinking Channing Tatum is flying out small town girls, no matter how beautiful they are, isn't? Is Pearl okay? It's like she has certain buzzwords she has to hit, regardless of whether or not they make sense. But yes, this is a good thing. As the article noted, fear of being single can lead to bad relationships just to avoid singleness, and there's a difference between high and impossible standards. Though, honestly, I don't understand being pressed about someone else having standards, impossible or high or whatever. They don't want to date you, move on. What is complaining about it going to do? Do you want them to date you out of pity? And everyone should have a standard of behavior in a relationship. You shouldn't just accept whatever someone decides to give you. That's how you end up in unhealthy and unsatisfying relationships.
They don't feel the same urgency to settle down. The average age for getting all of that grown-up stuff is rising. We're putting off relationships, marriage, kids, and mortgages until later in life. And again, guys, why is this? It's because as women, they want to make us feel young forever. And that is what they're selling. They're always selling that we are going to be young forever, attractive forever, and anything that makes us feel young. According to The Conversation today, the number of single adults in the US and many other nations across the world is unprecedented. And the numbers don't just say people are staying single longer before settling down. More people are staying single for life. We have hit certain milestones in increasing. Perhaps that's down to the fact that what it's considered old is also changing, right? So now, again, she's doing it. She's saying what's old is changing. 30, 35, that's dang near middle age. It really is. You're not a kid, you're an adult. But now they're trying to prolong that as long as possible. While your grandma may have been married and pregnant by your age, you may still be dragging your butt home from the club at 4 a.m. Women are enjoying active and youthful feelings for much longer. Again, same thing I'm showing you guys.
I do agree that 35 in 1990 is very different from 35 in 2024. And that's not a bad thing, especially considering the average life expectancy was increasing until 2020 anyway.
It's no longer socially unacceptable. And that's the last stage of all of this. They always try to normalize anything. The other show when we were talking about STDs and there was the young woman who had herpes, one of the things they were saying is that it's not abnormal and that everybody has it. So again, that's what they try to do. Something that's abnormal, they try to make normal. And I hate to say it, guys, it kind of works because many things are considered normal today that would have been crazy like 20, 30 years ago. Okay. Women, words we used for single women like spinster didn't exactly have positive connotations. It made you feel sexy and unwanted. While the male version bachelor was far cooler and brought to mind James Bond, Bonds of the world, who admiredly have avoided being tied down by a woman. I'm not suggesting patriarchal notions don't exist, but they have eased off. Nain says normal, everyone has it. No, they don't. I know they don't, but I'm telling you, that's what they try to do, is they make things normal. Like now it's normal. It's not good, but I see fat people all the time. And if you look at a picture from 50 years ago, you didn't see any, right? It's those kind of things that become more normal. Women are choosing to stay single simply because they can nowadays.
Who is they? And Johns Hopkins is telling me that 50 to 80% of American adults have oral herpes, so it does seem fairly normal. And apparently Pearl doesn't consider that 50 years ago we took less pictures and there was no social media to post them to. Anyway, let's wrap this up. Pearl reiterates that no one was tricked, and if men had a ton of women after them, they wouldn't want to settle down, and thus concludes,
there is no right or wrong, but life is about choices and trade-offs. And what I don't like is when people make certain choices and they complain about the consequence of them.
Is she trying to compare the writer of this article, who said she was in a relationship, to someone complaining about being single? That seems weird, but that's what happens when you act as though women are a hive mind. Suddenly, Betty is answering for Susan, even though they don't know each other. It's been a bit since I've looked at Pearl's channel, and nothing has changed. Though, honestly, I don't expect anything to. This is her job. And that's it for the 4th day of Tradmas. Thank you so much for watching, and I would like to give extra thanks to my patrons. My socials and Patreon are linked below, along with sources and resources, and I'll see you in the next video.